Well, on today's podcast, we're going to be joined by Roland Litenburg, the co-founder and SVP of Growth at House Call Pro. I am your host, Brian Lamoni, and I'm joined today as well as by my co-host, Olivia. We're all remote. How are you today?
I'm
Doing
good.
Good.
How are you?
We're good. It's a little strange, all being remote. Normally we're actually in an office. I'm sure maybe you're in an office as well, but not stuck at home. So
Yeah.
a little crazy with this coronavirus.
Yeah, we're lucky enough to be able to do work from home and not have to be out and about. So I feel like that's not true for everybody. And we've got a lot of our own customers that are essential and non-essential home service people that, they are out and about. So lucky enough to work from home, even though it can feel a little restricting at times, for sure.
Well, so since helping to found House Call Pro, the company has helped revolutionize the small business home services industry through a software-enabled marketplace and mobile operating system. Definitely pertinent to today's conversation related to having to be mobile. And in under 4 years, 65,000 home service professionals have used the platform on average about 7.25 hours a day to streamline and modernize their business through automation. So basically, in a short sentence, House Call Pro is some sort of software that helps businesses in the home service industry be mobile and use the internet. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we think of it as an operating system for home service businesses. So it does everything from scheduling, dispatching, doing invoicing, payments, marketing, automation, online booking, customer memberships, all kinds of stuff that typically is monotonous and takes a lot of time to do if you were to do it manually. And so with software, we can help automate that. So that way, our pros, our customers can get back to what they are best at, which is, turning the wrench or doing their trade and interacting with customers face to face. So we try to bring all the other stuff just to the background and get them as much time back, but then also really set them up for the growth. And so we've been at it now for 5 years since we launched. And we're helping a lot of pros all across all the trades in the home services space. And we're not just limited to the home services space. We have dog walkers, we have phlebotomists, we have equine masseuse, we have all kinds of interesting people. Pretty much just if you are a mobile service provider, you can use our software. We specialize in the trades. We specialize in HVAC, electrical, and plumbing. But we have about 170 different categories. So it's always fun to see what people come up with and what kind of businesses they're running, especially in times like these when a lot of businesses are pivoting. So I'm sure we can chat more about that in a little bit.
Well, that's incredible. I think today's conversation is going to be really pertinent because, pre-show, you talked a little bit about the information that you have because, you're working with, not just a handful, but you're working with, multiple tens of thousands of businesses. So you can really see what is happening kind of in this season. So let's just jump right in there.
Sure.
As it relates to being in the season that we're in with coronavirus, and obviously in most states, home service providers are essential. But even with being essential, this is impacting their business. What are some of the things and trends that you've been seeing from an impact standpoint?
Sure. So let's talk about first from a geographic perspective. Obviously, the country is being hit in different ways at different times. There's different hotspots, and those hotspots are even moving around. So as those are moving around, we're obviously seeing an impact to both scheduled and completed jobs. We see that as like a leading and a trailing indicator of how our businesses are performing. They're using our platform. Obviously, there's all the different industries within the home service trades, and they're all operating a little bit differently. So when you take a look at the cleaning, from home cleaning to carpet cleaning, those types of industries are hit the hardest because they're not essential, or they're not considered essential by many of the states. Whereas more mechanical trades like HVAC, plumbing, and electrical, those are necessary and essential, and they're hit less. So what we're seeing is there's a little bit of difference between those trades and the cleaning trades. And then another way to think about it too is we're seeing a lot of businesses that are able to render services without going in the home. They're definitely impacted a little bit, but not quite as much as the services where someone actually has to come inside the home. So if you think about those services like landscaping, tree trimming, pool guys, those are typically companies that are still able to do what they're doing on a day-to-day basis without having to interact and still be able to maintain that social distance that's in place in a lot of the different states. So what we see is, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, still doing well, obviously trending a little bit below. Home cleaning, power washing, carpet cleaning, those types of things, not doing quite as well. They're definitely heavily impacted. We see over a 50% drop. But for anyone that's doing outside services as it relates to home services, they're still doing okay. They're obviously a little bit impacted there, but not quite as much as those that have to go indoors. So if you're in one of those trades and you're kind of feeling that way, just know that you're not alone, and we're seeing that in the trends of the data. And obviously another thing to keep in mind is with all of the things that are happening, it's not demand that's going to be going away. It's all demand that's becoming pent up. So what I mean by that is people are inside their homes and they're probably using their things much more than they normally would be. And things are still breaking, and there's things that will need to get fixed. So what that means is that you want to make sure that you can position your business and keep it afloat, so that when the lockdowns and the social distancing, all those get lifted, that you're ready to come back in, because the companies that are still standing are going to be getting a majority of those inbound requests, because it's not as if the demand went away. It's just been pent up. It's just like water kind of building pressure behind that dam after winter. In spring, they got to let it out. So it's not like it's going away. It's definitely there. And you want to make sure you position yourself in the right way so you can capture all that on the rebound side of things.
I mean, it's really, excuse me, interesting to think about the different buckets. I hadn't really spent some time just processing that. There's obviously different kinds of home service providers in that way. What are some ways that home service providers are pivoting? Because, like, for example, a contractor can do work inside and out. Are you seeing some businesses that may be doing inside work kind of pivoting and shifting towards, promoting more of work that would be less invasive into the home?
So I think there's a couple different things that we're seeing. There's some businesses that are pivoting slightly and some that are pivoting completely. So we'll talk about the ones that are maybe pivoting slightly. For companies that have the ability to do work inside and outside the home, a lot of stuff that needs to happen inside the home is now being transferred in what they call virtual estimates or virtual service calls, where simply by using FaceTime, Google Hangouts, Zoom, our software house called Pro, you're able to actually interact with the customer and get diagnosis, even sometimes troubleshooting, walkthroughs, and quotes. Do it all virtually. Whereas a lot of the work outside the home, they can still do. So you'll see plumbing companies. We have a lot of our pros that are like, hey, you know what? I'd rather collect 50% of a check because that work that I can do is outside than no check at all. So that's how some of them are adapting if they're doing inside and outside work, and they have the ability to do that. Then there's some companies like home cleaning companies that just can't operate. And so some of those companies and carpet cleaning companies that I see, they're pivoting their business models entirely. And a lot of them are saying now, hey, for my current customers, think of me as a delivery service. Whatever you need, I'll go get it and bring it to your home. So we also see companies that have trucks that are open and that have room. They're turning into junk haul removal. As everyone's shifting to living indoors and really working for home more often, people are noticing that their houses are probably really cluttered. They need to get some stuff out. So a junk haul removal and all of those are still categorized as essential services. So in most states. So what that means is, they're completely pivoting their business to offering something different, from like delivery or to like a junk haul. And really they see themselves as, hey, you know what? We have trucks, we've got employees that are now covered by the PPP or EIDL. And so I'm going to put them to work, and they're going to do something, and they're going to provide something of value to our current customer base. So when we come out the backside of this, they're going to remember who was there to help them. So you'll see different companies doing different techniques to keep themselves busy and in business and still keeping their guys and their trucks out on the road.
That's incredible. And we've been seeing that as well. Some of our clients have actually struggled, with kind of jumping into that virtual world of, they may use software, but they've never done a virtual, conversation. In my world, and my guess is in your world, you live with technology. Are you finding that any of your clients and customers are just, even though they're used to using software, they're struggling to jump into like a virtual conversation from a standpoint of quoting or estimating or even diagnostic?
I think there's things that are happening now because we're in this state of coronavirus that will outlast the current situation that we're in. So what I mean is people are learning to adapt, to use new tools that they're going to bring forward into this kind of new world that we're going to have to live in. And one of those things being this virtual estimates. And when you think about using it for a B2B application, it isn't very different than what you'd normally do from a B2C application, or just C2C. So if you think about, them as just a family unit, and they probably have family in different places. They're using FaceTime, they're doing Zoom happy hours, they're doing all of these things just themselves, irrespective of business. So they're not only becoming accustomed to the tools by using it for their business, but they're also using it for their own personal lives. So it makes it much more easy for them to transition, where normally if you just say, hey, we're not going to start doing virtual estimates, and why would we, because we can just go to their home. They're starting to learn the reasons why it's so powerful and so beneficial. If you can do 7 estimates or 8 estimates in any given day, and you don't have to get in the truck and go drive around town everywhere, get stuck in traffic, get stuck talking to that homeowner that you can't really like leave and you feel awkward leaving their home. These are now all tools where you can quickly jump in, jump out, not spend too much time. There's no time in between. So, businesses are really learning that, hey, this might actually be an optimal way to do a lot of what I would normally have done, by physically driving around and saving a lot of costs. So I feel like, typical customers of ours, because they're using our software, are more early adopter, technology forward. And so they're not quite struggling as much as maybe some other more traditional based businesses that are still using pen and paper. So I see that less, but it's also just because by default, our customers do see the value in software and are investing in their business and spending, monthly recurring costs with us to better their own business.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I mean, to think about the software and people not being able to do that. So I'm moving, and I'm literally calling upon, the people that are in this industry to help me with quotes and everything. And because I'm buying a new home and need to do some renovations immediately, I don't want to bog down the current homeowner with bringing all these people in. And I'm finding that 9 out of every 10 people I contact don't want to, they want me to pick up the phone. They want to do an appointment there. And it's like, guys, like, we don't have to do this. Like, we can go virtual. Give me a range of a price. Like, even if you can't do dollar for dollar until you get there on person, I can understand that, but you have to be flexible. And I think that you're right. The companies that choose to be flexible and choose to adapt are going to come out on the other side even stronger, and even maybe implementing some of these things that they start doing. But those that are just really struggling, I think it's going to be another, 2008 or 2001 situation.
Flat rate pricing. So what I mean by flat rate pricing is something that's not just time and labor, or time and materials, where you're just billing, hey, I'm going to go Home Depot, get these things on there for 4 hours, so I'm going to bill you X. It's more flat rate pricing on a lot of things that are fairly standard or straightforward, whether it's unclogging a toilet or installing a faucet or painting the door. These are all things that you should know how long it's going to take you in 95% of the cases. And roughly the materials, or if the customer supplies the faucet, what would it cost to install? We always train and advocate for our pros to go to that flat rate pricing based model, because it's a lot easier for customers to understand from a pricing perspective. They don't feel bait and switched. Obviously, for things that are new construction or you're doing remodels, yeah, there's going to be a wider range. But typically, the home service pros that use our platform are doing service-based work that's typically more repair and maintenance. Although there is some install, it's not quite the same as a general contractor bidding a full house remodel. You're going to get quotes from 30,000 to 150,000. These things are pretty standard, and the more you can get used to quoting these flat rate prices, remember, sometimes you might be wrong, but as long as you're not wrong more than 1 out of 20 times, you're going to be making and pricing in the margin on all the other calls that you're going to make to overcome that. And the benefit is it's so much easier on you, it's so much easier on the customer, and that's what they're looking for. So use this as an opportunity to practice those skills and start really thinking about what time it takes to do certain things and make it easy for the customer. It's all about transparency, all about ease. The customers are already kind of weirded out by people coming into their home. Try to take that like off their plate. Have them not worry, because they're going to remember that you were easy to deal with. You were technologically friendly. You just hopped right on FaceTime, or you just hopped right on Zoom, and I'm like, wow, this is a cool company to work with. So even if you don't win the bid, even if you end up not doing something, they're going to remember how you made them feel. And that's the most important thing coming out the other end.
Wow.
That's all really helpful. Kind of switching gears a little bit. Obviously, your company is so dynamic and has done a tremendous amount of work for home service providers. Can you kind of shed some light on what compelled you to help found House Call Pro? And did you ever imagine it becoming what it is today?
That's a great question. So I think when you originally get in the business of starting something, you never really even believe what it could become. You have hopes and aspirations, but you never truly know. And I think a part of the fun part of being an entrepreneur, whether you're in the home services or technology space, is that you have a certain almost like naivete to how hard things may actually be along the way to get to where you are. So when we started House Call Pro, we knew that the home services space had largely been untouched by technology, and it was a great opportunity because it's just so highly fragmented. It's definitely so old school, or definitely has been, pen and paper. And so there's just a big opportunity to help a lot of people that have not traditionally gotten the tools like are developed for consumers. And so when we started building our app, we built it mobile first and mobile only. So, we had it just for these devices, our iPhones and our Androids, and it was built for the owner operator. And we slowly started to build up from there. And then we built a web portal and all these things. But when we saw what it was able to do from a time savings perspective for our customers, it just made it even more fun, because we'd get the messages from customers saying like, oh my gosh, you don't know how much time I saved. I now have time for my family after work. I'm no longer like under a pile of paperwork and have to enter in all these invoices by hand, and I'm not losing track of things anymore like I used to. And I'm able to send these on my way text just like Uber to my customer, and the customers always love it. So, it's self-reinforcing. And along the way, we built an amazing community. We have an exclusive group for our pros on Facebook. Oh, I think we have over 8,000 of them now in there, and they're all sharing their tips and tricks with one another. And it's very collaborative. And typically in the home services space, you don't see a lot of home service companies working with one another unless they're different industries in an area and they're kind of referring jobs to one another. But typically you don't see a lot of plumbers helping other plumbers because it's just so cutthroat. And then in our community, it's so different. So, if you use House Call Pro, you get to join that group and share tips and tricks and just learn from other people in other areas. And even in your same area, we see a lot of collaboration in the same industry, in the same area. So it's really helped, especially during this coronavirus time. We started a brand new group, and it's for all home service companies, whether or not they're using our software, doesn't matter. And so you can get there just by going to housecallpro.com/coronavirus. But we dump a ton of resources and the time into researching and reading the CARES Act to figure out the best way for home service companies to get those PPP loans funded, which banks do they go to, how long does it take, the EIDL, the free $10,000 they're giving out that you don't have to repay. So we dump a lot of stuff into there to make sure that, you know, our customers have all the tools they need to stay successful, stay afloat, so that when they come out the other side of everything that's going on here, they're going to be the strong ones left standing. So that's some of the motivation behind what we do. But we hope that everyone can watch that. We do a nightly webcast there too, 5 p.m. every single day, covering whatever's latest and new, because there's always stuff changing and there's tons of opportunity right now. And when you have some time, now's the time to really invest in your business and get things straightened out, whether it's your CRM, whether it's your website, whether it's your marketing, whether it's your operations. Now is really the time where, you know, don't just sit home and just watch Netflix all day. Do something, you know, do something productive. There's plenty of stuff that I'm sure you've been wanting to do that now you have some time to get toward doing it.
Yeah, I definitely, you know, spoken to some of our clients and encourage kind of the same thing. You know, now's the time to work on your business instead of like in your business. You know, so many times, you know, especially in this field, I find that, you know, business owners are up on the roof and sledging a hammer and, you know, still doing the plumbing. And it's like, no, you've got to, in order to grow your business, you've got to work on your business. And I think now, you know, obviously this season is not a blessing to everyone. But I think we that are fortunate to be safe right now, we need to take it as a blessing and turn it into something even better to work on, you know, our businesses. You mentioned earlier about pricing, you know, the flat rate pricing and transparency. You know, pricing is typically the reason why people call or not. And just because you're talking about pricing does not mean that you're a cheapskate, doesn't mean that you know, are looking for the lowest bid. But for businesses that are embracing this flat rate pricing, do you find that they're choosing to bring their pricing online onto their websites and other tools and communication so people can get information on the front end before they even pick up the phone or dial in or call or whatever?
Sure. So people that use our platform, about a third of their jobs come from online booking. So it's a tool that we offer that they can install on their website that makes it really easy for someone to book them online. No different than you would maybe book a flight on Southwest or reserve a table on OpenTable for, you know, a night out in the town or for barber. So all this, or buy something from Amazon for that matter. So we see that pros that are willing to put their prices up front, definitely for the simpler things, tend to get 17% higher dollar amounts for those same services than ones that don't. So everyone always thinks, oh, if I put my price out there, my competitor is just going to underbid me and all these things. At the end of the day, whatever they did to come to your website already validates the fact that there's something that drew them there. And by you being transparent and upfront with your pricing, just helps further that brand and the reason why they came to you, to then help them further down that funnel to create that booking. And when they book you, you know, you can still call them and ask for clarification. You know, if there's obviously outside the scope, homeowners are very reasonable. You know, they know that if there's something really crazy and it's outside the scope, that yeah, they're going to pay more and they're not going to hold you to it. And then also what happens is the people that are looking to negotiate on prices, you don't go into a restaurant and you go into a steakhouse and you go, you know what, this, you know, this steak that's listed for, you know, $75, I actually, can you make it a little bit smaller? And then could I pay $44 for it? Because the steakhouse down the street charges, you know, 41. You know, you don't go into the restaurant and do that. You see the menu, you see the prices, you pick the thing you want, or you don't go to that restaurant, or you don't order that thing, you order something else. And so, you know, by putting that online, it's really important because it signals that, you know, you're willing to put your price up there. At the same time, you're only going to get customers that are going to click that thing at that price. So all the tire kickers, you know, you might lose some of the people that are willing to negotiate, but those are not the clients that you want anyways, because guess who they're going to refer? Other low value clients. Right. And if you get the people that value the price and the booking, the transparency and everything up front, you're going to get more high quality people. And then at the end of the day with the home service business, the hardest thing is, you know, isn't necessarily like, oh, how can I get 10 trucks on the road? You can build an incredible business with just a couple people, a couple trucks, and just running very profitable jobs that you want to do, that you feel good about doing, not a race to the bottom.
Wow, that's a lot of really great advice. That kind of got me thinking. In this season of change, so many home service providers are probably struggling to maybe think outside the box or be optimistic. What do you think are some strategic or innovative ways home service providers can start reinvesting in their business and remain proactive during this time if they're struggling to come up with new and innovative ideas on their own?
Yeah, I think there's no secret for success, and it's hard work. So, when you're sitting at home and you're not able to get out on the road, call all your customers, and don't necessarily call them to try to get a job. Just call them and start investing in the relationships that show that you care. Because ultimately, if you're just calling to say, hey, Olivia, I'm just calling to check in. We did some work for you 6 months ago. Obviously, hey, how are things been? Is everything okay with your family? Is there anything that I can do? Maybe even offer, hey, I'm in your area. Is there anything I can pick up for you? 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, oh, no, thank you, but thank you for asking. They're going to remember that phone call. And so what you want to start doing is you really want to start planting those seeds for when things do start to return back to the semi-normal state. And you can only do it by investing. So, you don't have to be particularly innovative. You just have to put in the work and the time to invest in those customers that you already have. A lot of businesses, you'll have hundreds, if not thousands of customers that you can just call and check in on and get nothing out of it. I've also seen a lot of home service companies start to really push on their membership plans right now. So inside of House Call Pro, you can actually create membership programs where it bills automatically. So this is really turning your business from like a Blockbuster mentality more to a Netflix mentality. And because all this demand is becoming pent up, the one thing that a lot of these home service companies are saying, hey, you know what, Olivia, obviously I'm calling you because I know that you probably have some stuff that you're holding off on right now because of, the state lockdown or what have you. But coming out of this, there's going to be a huge demand for all these things. I just want to make sure that you're top of the list. We actually have our gold member VIP program here. It's only $9 a month. If you get on that, that means that you're at the top of the list to get stuff done. In the meantime, if you can start writing down the things that you want to get done in your home, or here's some ideas that I've seen some of my other clients start to ask for, I just want to make sure that as soon as we come out of this, you're going to be one of the first people that I come to, because there's going to be a lot of people asking for my service. So that's another kind of idea that you can bring to the table. I see a lot of companies start to do different text initiatives. So reaching out to their current clients just with simple texts. There's a ton of tools out there that can do that. But starting to get people to opt in to be notified from your company via text. What are some value adds that you can do? Can you give them a great piece of content? Something I've seen work really well in the cleaning industry is, what chemicals can you and should you not mix together? Who knew that if you put Clorox and vinegar together, there's going to be a really bad reaction. You can imagine people are concocting all kinds of stuff, but these are cool pieces of content that you can just go and just send out to people. You're not selling them anything. You're doing nothing other than just being a useful member of the community, reaching out to give them some piece of value. And remember, they're going to come back to you. So use this time to think about, how do you plant more seeds? How do you invest? So when things start to change again, they're going to come back to you and they're going to be like, oh yeah, where's that text again? I don't know about you, but I don't go through and delete any of my texts. They all stack up, and so I got my list of texts and I just scroll back down to, oh, there's that text. Boom. Yeah, I'll go there. So you want to be in there. If you're not in there, they might forget, they're like, oh, who is that guy? I don't remember. Oh, let me go back to Google. And then all of a sudden, boom, you lost that opportunity. Yeah. So make sure that, in the case that people are Googling, that you're ranked in the right ways, that you've kept your website up to date during these times also. A tip that I've been giving a lot of pros too is obviously Google prefers businesses that are proactive about updating their Google My Business profiles. So they have all kinds of great new widgets inside of GMB that you can now toggle, saying, "Hey, I'm open for business" or temporary closed. And if you're being proactive about letting Google know what's going on with your business, they're going to be much more likely to surface you higher than the next one that hasn't even touched their GMB or their profile. So use these times to keep people in the know, both from the technology side of things like Google, but then also your customers too. Hey, I'm still open for business. If you need anything, here I am. And those are just some really basic tips, not really innovative, but I feel like they're often overlooked.
I mean, so just a GMB, we actually did a webinar in January just about GMB because, I mean, through the years, it went to be this really big thing, and then all the tools went away basically, and then it started being built back up. And I think most people don't even realize that what they have access to now, because they haven't logged into what used to be Google Plus or Google whatever 10 years ago, and they have forgotten about that. So and I think you've mentioned the pent up business, and multiple times. I was at Lowe's over the weekend, not because I need to do something that I shouldn't be doing in this season, but because I actually ordered boxes and things to move, because that's what we're doing. And I ordered it and shipped it there so I could pick it up with curbside. And the curbside, there was like no one answering the phone. So I walked in and I found out why, because Lowe's was literally busier than any other Saturday I've ever been on. And that's a whole nother subject right now, because I don't think people should be doing that. But I think that speaks to people are home. People are wanting to do things to their home. And I think that once we get back to some sort of normalcy, whatever that becomes, I think you are exactly right that people are going to be ready to spend. Obviously, those that have been laid off or furloughed, that's going to have to come back around for a little while. But spending is going to happen, and people are going to need these services, just like you said.
Yep.
So, you've run, multiple kinds of businesses. What is something that you know now that you wish you knew 5, 10, 3 months ago? What is something that you've learned along the way that you wish you had learned before you learned it the hard way?
Wow. I'd say the biggest thing is, you won't get what you don't ask. So never be afraid to ask, because the worst thing that can happen is that someone tells you no, or maybe a company tells you no, and that just gets you to that next yes. So I feel like, in the beginning, you might say, oh, I'm this small company, I don't know if I can ask this, or I don't even know if they'll give me a deal. I don't know if I can negotiate this piece in the contract. The worst case is you ask and they go, no, we can't do that. The best case is you actually get what you ask for. And so I feel like many years ago, when you're younger, you think, oh, the people older than me or the companies that have been around for longer, they know exactly what they're doing. The truth of the matter is becoming an adult, any maturing business, now that I've had multiple, nobody really knows what they're doing. A lot of people are just pretending, and that's okay. And a lot of people are learning as they go. And so, when you're younger, you're like, oh my God, they have it all together. They know exactly what they're doing. I can't ask for these things, or I can't do this. They're all self-limiting beliefs. And so if you just realize a lot of people are just trying their best as well, it's no different than what you're doing. And it's easier to get things done when you know that, and you don't feel like you're constrained by anything. So, think outside the box and dream big and try. The worst that happens is it doesn't work out. And that's okay, because you're still a little further ahead. And you know what? When you fail, you learn. And as long as you're learning when you fail, then you're coming out ahead, whether or not you actually get what you wanted. So it's one of those things that you got to make sure that you're always trying to do things that make you a little uncomfortable. Because if you're feeling too comfortable, that means you're not really trying hard enough. And it's a good feeling to have when you're like, oof, I don't know, let's try this, or like, this could totally blow up in my face. But, that's really, truly the only way to learn and kind of keep going forward. And the people that are willing to take those risks and realize that sooner get much further ahead, because they're learning at a much more rapid pace than everyone that's kind of doing what's comfortable. So hopefully that's a long-winded answer.
Fall forward. That's that. Don't fall backwards. Just fall forward. Even if it's a little step, it's a step. So,
yeah, that's a good question.
Kind of going off that ability to learn and adapt, what's one of the biggest pieces of advice you could offer to someone who, is considering after this season of change is over, opening their own business, or they've always toyed with the idea, but they've never really gone for it? What do you have to say to those folks who are toying with the idea in their mind?
Yeah, stop toying with it. Just do it. I feel like I have always like Yoda sitting in the back of my head, that's like, try not, just like do.
Yoda or Baby Yoda?
Um,
Oh
Baby
gosh,
Yoda
don't get
too, 'cause
Brian started on Baby Yoda.
he's kind of like floating over here. He doesn't talk very much, but he does. He doesn't try. When he needs to get stuff done, he just like, zap, make stuff happen. So I feel like, the biggest thing is just go do, just go, stop toying about the idea. There's no reason to overthink it. Just try it. Now you've got the time. And it's better to execute than just to always think about, oh, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do this. But what about this? But what about this? No, just do it. I feel like that's the thing that holds most people back. They think they can't just do stuff. Even stuff like this podcast. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I want to do a podcast. I want to do interviews. Like, but I don't have the mic, but I don't have this, or I don't have the guests. There's a million reasons why not to, but it's actually not that hard when you get going. The hardest thing is just, remain consistent and keep going. When you don't see initial results, doesn't mean it's not going to work. It just means it was your first time or your second time or your fifth time. It takes a while to build things up. So just keep going. Ultimately, you're going to create something of value, and people are going to listen, and they're going to come, they're going to tune in, and they're going to be like, oh, that was cool. Or they had a great guest on, they'll start coming back, and it all begins to compound. But if you don't even try, nothing is going to compound. Zero is still zero. Will always be zero. So just start with something. And that's what, 0 to 1. It's a good book to read on that.
Yeah, I think the compounding is interesting. So this is kind of year 2 in podcast. So we started it about a year ago, and it was a completely different name, Growth Made Simple. And when we really decided to really niche down to home service industry, we realized we need to make a change. And our podcast was once or twice a month before, and so we learned, we made some mistakes, and probably no one will ever go listen to those podcasts, thankfully. But since February, we have gone every week. We've rebranded, we focused, and did we make mistakes? Of course. And now the coronavirus, we had to learn how to do all this remotely and changing software and everything. But you've got to try something. So I think that's a great encouragement. So for those that are watching or listening to this that are not using software in their business, they're still pen and paper, or maybe they're using Excel, and they're
Google
using
Calendar and
some basics.
Yeah.
And they think about, or they've heard about software opportunities, but maybe the cost, the idea of the cost, because I would just we sell software with what we do, and it's not cheap, and people don't necessarily understand the value of it. Automation, people don't understand like how much automation can add value back into your business. So what are some things that you could say to people that are listening to help overcome those fears of what using software in their business could be beneficial?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing to help relate in terms of, if you're thinking about it from a cost perspective, is just think about the value of your time. So figure out what you would bill for any 1 hour. What is that value worth? And then start thinking about what are the things the software is doing for you, and how much time it would have taken you to do it. So that's a really easy way to get just a rough barometer of, time savings. But I feel like that is kind of a short-sighted way to look at it, because it's also creating so much more value beyond that, because you're able to deliver so much more, and you're so much more leveraged than you normally would be. So there is a multiplier on that, which is obviously why software can cost what it does, because of the value that it brings. So if you think about any kind of investment, anything where you can find leverage, whether it's, educational content, some courses, software, tools, I feel like people spend a lot of money on their tools, but it helps you do the work faster. It helps you do the work better, and it lets you accomplish more with less. So put those kind of in the same bucket. And then from a marketing perspective, everything has to have some sort of ROI. So when you think about software, think about, well, why is it priced this way? Well, what kind of ROI can it give me? Can it prove to me that it's gotten jobs that normally I wouldn't have gotten jobs? Big for us is, customers just put online booking on their site, and it more than pays for the cost of the entire software multiple times over, because now they're actually getting these jobs that would have normally just went to another competitor, because it would just have a standard form fill on a website, which is, early 2000s. If someone fills out a form, and I don't know when they're going to call me, I just filled out a form. I can't remember the last time I ever filled out a form. And so, like, why? So when it comes to evaluating, what you spend out on things like this, the basics is figure out what your time is worth and how much time it would have spent you to do it. But then also think about, there's a reason why you pay the locksmith $120 to open up your lock, and it only takes them 5 minutes. You're not paying for his 5 minutes. You're paying for the 10 years of bumping locks to get your thing unlocked. And so the same way that you charge for your services, you should consider whether you're working with agencies, with software, what kind of leverage does it give you? You're not just paying for that small piece of time. You're paying for lots and lots of years of experience and know-how, no different than what you should be charging your customers too for your experience. I feel like a lot of companies get stuck in the rut where it's like, well, you know what? Bob down the street does it for $12 an hour, so I can't charge more than $12 an hour. Well, guess what? If you bought a water-fed pole and a power wash machinery, you're able to do that same job in 10 minutes. So it doesn't mean that you should charge 1/10 of what Bob charges. No, you invested in tools, you can do it faster, more efficient. So just think about what are the things that you can invest in that will compound and leverage your time and your expertise, so that you can offer a service level that's much higher than what your competitors. Normally you'd have to pay an office admin full time to send out on my way text notifications, to create these estimates or to create these invoices online, send them, collect payments, all these things. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And you'd be paying $40,000, $50,000 a year for that office person full time, but you don't need them. So put it in the context of what else you would pay to get all this stuff done. So those are just some high level things to think about when you're evaluating software just in general, but also just expertise in general also.
I think that's great. And I think the reality is, so many times I find that our clients only want to do things the way that their mind works. Like, for example, like online booking, like we offer that, for our clients as well. And people are like, well, I would never do that. Well, you may not, but everyone else in the world will. and I don't text. You got to pick up the phone and call. Well, no one else in the world does that anymore. And so I think that you've got to not let businesses can't let their own, like, the way they like to do things dictate how they do things, and it's like, how many times have I heard, and I'm sure you've heard this, like, well, I tried to do online booking and it just didn't work. Well, there may have been some other things wrong with your website or the traffic that you were getting. I mean, it just doesn't mean, it's like, people are like, well, Facebook advertising doesn't work. Well, obviously it does, because people are doing it. It just maybe wasn't working for you. And so you gotta think outside the box, gotta think outside your own self. Sometimes your own self is your worst own enemy.
I think it always is. People let it become that because of self-limiting beliefs. They're not willing to be uncomfortable. So being uncomfortable is good. Spending more on something and seeing if it can work it's okay. It's okay to try, because if it does work, double down and then triple down and quadruple down. A lot of people feel like, oh, this is like the max it could be. No, there's no max. If you figure something out, I promise you, Facebook will find a way to spend it. Google will find a way to spend it. Just make sure your unit economics are solid, and you've built the right funnels, and you're collecting the information, and you get the leads, and you're following up on the leads. A lot of people are like, oh,
My
you know what?
goodness.
This isn't working. It's like, did you call them? It's like, yeah, I called them like later that day. And it's like, okay, so obviously someone's going to beat you to the punch. And yeah, of course you're not seeing good ROI. So I feel like, don't be afraid. Try new things. It's okay to make mistakes. Life is going to go on. But if you're not making the bets, you will fall behind. And if you feel like your way is the only way, you're also going to fail, because ultimately it's what the customer wants and what the customer is going to pay for. And you might be able to, create a great one-man business forever and until, your joints give out. Or you can start thinking about, how do I train someone underneath me that runs service calls alongside me? And then how do I get all the rest of the business things in place? So that way, I could spend more time at home working on the business, not in it, just like you guys said. So, don't be afraid. Try new things. I promise you it works. We've seen our online booking for our customers grow in an insane rate. And it's becoming the norm. The on my way text with a picture notification of the technician that's on the way, that's kind of the norm now. If you're not starting to do these things, you're really starting to fall behind. And I kind of feel like a broken record when, everyone was like, why would I do this web thing, this World Wide Web? Like, I'm just going to stick with yellow pages. I'm just going to, my name's AAA Plumbing. I got it in the bag. That's how you get to the front page of the yellow pages, AAA Plumbing. So don't keep that mindset, because those businesses, ultimately will slow down, taper down, and go to zero. Whereas the other ones that are willing to adapt and try new things, remember, I would say, look at the way that as a consumer that you would do things. Are you buying things on Amazon? Yeah. Are there pictures and prices that are upfront on there? Yep. People are like, well, it's so easy to price those things. Services are so hard to price. And I go, imagine how difficult it is to price for airlines. You've got different sized planes. You've got labor unions with like people that can only take these certain hours. You've got everything around the terminals you have to negotiate. Then you've got maintenance on the planes. Then you've got like delays and weather, and they're still able to offer a flight at a fixed price at a time. So imagine all the variables that go into that. How can they do that, and how can you not do that for your business? It's what consumers are expecting, and if you can give that to them, you're going to win. And if you don't, you'll still be able to make a business, but it just won't be able to be what it can be. And that's what we want to make sure that we can drive home here with everyone that's watching this is, don't be afraid to try. Educate yourself.
I think that's, going back to, me buying a house, like I had someone come out to the place on Friday to give me a quote, and I still have not heard from him. And since then, I've reached out to 3 other people, and they've been able to give me a quote, not even being there. And it's like, everyone uses Prime. It's like, Prime, I don't know if you've ordered anything on Prime recently, but, non-essential stuff is actually slowing down. And it's like, wait, I can't get something in the day now.
It feels weird. Yeah.
It does feel weird. My wife ordered like, it wasn't medicine. It was like vitamins. And she's like, well, that's kind of essential. And it's like, not really, toilet paper right now is essential. But I mean, Amazon is impacting our business, and Amazon's going to impact because people are expecting things yesterday. I mean, even 2 days before, even before they even think about it. So as we wrap up, I wanted to show I think we can share a screen from here. I want to share the website that you're referencing. Let's see if it will work. Because you've produced something pretty amazing here with this House Call Pro /coronavirus. So for those that are just kind of tuning in or catching this later and forgot about what you had mentioned, talk to me a little bit about what you're offering here, just for anyone, not even just people that are customers of you guys.
Yeah, so if you're in the home services period, you should be in this group. You should be watching the nightly webcasts. There's so much value in each one of these things. So if you enjoyed the things that I had to say today, we have got guests on here. We've got customers on here. We've got Ourselves, we're doing a bunch of research on all these things. So if you go and you click on like the free resources button there in the middle, access now, we've got all kinds of blog posts. We've got templates. We've got, here's the employee situations, HR, can you ask someone if they have coronavirus, can you not,
Never
from the
thought
money.
about that.
Yeah. From the money
Olivia,
perspective.
do you have the coronavirus?
Yeah. Yeah. You can ask her, are you showing any symptoms, shortness of breath, these things. So you can ask that. But yeah, so we go over all those things here, and then live on the nightly cast, you can actually ask us Q&A. So you can ask the experts that are on there, and you can register for that. That's at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard, and then they're all recorded too. So if you can't make it because you're having dinner or you got the kids to deal with, you can always watch it later. It's all
That's
there,
right.
and it's literally daily relevant statistics on what's going on, what's working, what's not. So
Do you need to
it's
be
just a
part of
good
the
resource.
Facebook group to see the webcast, or is that something completely different?
The webcast is on Zoom, but we also stream it live on Facebook. So if you prefer to watch lives on Facebook, you can do that there. If you want to engage in the chat and the Q&A and the polls, then obviously you'll be registering for the Zoom. But either way works. If you don't feel comfortable using Zoom, whatever you're using, just watch the Facebook Live. We've got people in there too that are monitoring the chat and engaging as well. So
Yeah,
it's
Zoom
definitely a
has
good
gotten
resource for all you guys.
a little attention on the news right now. So
Yeah,
we jumped
definitely.
on a Zoom call with one of our clients yesterday, and they're like freaking out, like, "Are we supposed to? Should we be using this?" I'm like, "It's fine. Just
No one's gonna bomb that meeting. Yeah, you'll be all right.
Maybe your meeting, because
Yeah.
don't do that, guys, if you're listening.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a webinar, so we're good. We're safe.
Gotcha. Well, as we wrap up, is there any just kind of lasting thoughts, that you want to leave people, whether it's related to Corona or just House Call Pro, or just something that's relevant that you want to share?
Yeah, I would just say in general, whether you're using a software or you're not, if you're using pen and paper or you're using some other, competitor software, it never hurts to take a look, jump on a demo, see what it's like. We always say it's good to tour a home that's staged so you can actually envision how you'd use it on a day-to-day basis. So if you're interested in software to help you run your business, go check out a demo of House Call Pro. Regardless whether you want software or not, you should definitely subscribe and join the House Call Pro coronavirus discussion group. That's our Facebook group. It's free. There's no cost. You should check out those nightcasts. And then we've got tons of templates. If you're looking for social media marketing templates, we've got them all pre-created for you. It's built in Canva, so you can drag and drop your logo on it. Just take that and send it to your customers. So there's actionable things in there you can be doing with all the time now that you're probably spending at home. So just go check out that URL kind of here below. And let me know if you guys have any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been such a great podcast, and we've really appreciated you having us, having you on the show.
Pleasure being here with you guys. Super
awesome.
fun.
Well, next week's episode, we are going to be interviewing Spencer Paget, who is the director and builder in residence of Co-Construct, which is another great software for builders and construction workers. So we're going to keep on diving into the relationship between technology and the home service industry. If you really like our podcast, please go like us on Facebook. And we now have a website live as well, thehomeservicetoolbox.com. So you can view all of our previous episodes and check out all of our other awesome guests. Please like and subscribe. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. And until then, we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye, guys.